Hey guys, I'm Pixel Dan, and this is a review of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles original comic book turtles from Playmates Toys. That's right, we are celebrating the 30th anniversary of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and while Nick Turtles is really hot right now, this is a really cool way for Playmates Toys to kind of pay homage to where it all started. So as you can see, all four turtles come on very similar packaging to what we see currently with the Nick Turtles line. The card back is shaped the same, however you'll notice that the color is different. It's a different color purple in design, and the background's got all these images from the classic Mirage comic books, and even some artwork of the black and white turtles right there at the bottom of the blister that fully showcases the action figure within. Flipping these around to the back side, not only do we get a look at the ever-growing Nick Turtles toy line, but at the top of the package there, we also get a bio of the Mirage Comics Ninja Turtles. So all the way back in 1984, the Ninja Turtles debuted in Mirage Comics in a black and white color scheme, thanks to Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird. And here we are 30 years later, and Ninja Turtles have gone through several different incarnations, and they're incredibly hot right now with the Nick Turtles cartoon series. And so to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the Turtles, Playmates Toys has done a new set of action figures based on the way they looked in those original comic books. Now, as you can see, these are full-color turtles. In those comics, they were black and white, but the covers were color, of course. And in those comics, they all wore red bandanas. So that's exactly why you see all four turtles here wearing the same color bandana. Now, it's worth noting that all four of these turtles share the same body. So when you stand all four turtles side by side, you'll notice that the body design is exactly the same on all four turtles. The only place that it's different is the head sculpt. Every turtle does have their own unique head sculpt there, and the bandanas are kind of shaped different or blowing different directions, and each of them kind of have a different look on their face. Some of them just with the teeth gritting pose, some of them showing no teeth, or, the teeth on one side kind of thing. It's very classic Turtles in look. Now, one of the downsides, of course, of them all sharing bodies is that it's a little hard to tell them all apart, for one. They're all wearing the same red bandanas, and of course, this was kind of a thing with the old comics too, which is why, when they came to the cartoon series, they actually colorized all their bandanas, so it was easier to tell them apart. All their bodies are the same here, so without them holding their weapons, it's tough to tell really who's who. Also, we get some downsides with the fact that guys like Leonardo are missing essential parts to the figure. He doesn't have scabbards on his back to place his swords. That's a bit of a bummer. Now, all of the turtles are also colored exactly the same. So they're the same shade of dark green. They've kind of got these bright yellow chests. And then, the brown wraps around the elbows, the knees, the wrists, and kind of a darker, more pale green shell on the back. And the paint jobs are pretty good for the most part. There are a few sloppy spots on the yellow that kind of bleeds over off the chest. You'll notice that on a few of the turtles here in some of these pictures. But other than that, the paint jobs look pretty good. Now, the sculpts are something else we need to talk about here. They are meant to look the way they were drawn in the original comic books. And for the most part, I think these look really cool. I love the designs of the original comic books there, the way all the turtles appeared in that, and they translated pretty decently in action figure form for the most part. The one thing I really want to focus on with the sculpts here is all of the little cross etching that we see in the sculpt. All of those little kind of hashes and cross hashes there that are kind of mixed in with the sculpt are sort of a way to resemble the way that they were drawn, the way the sketches were drawn in those black and white comics. And while I totally understand what they're going for here, looks a little strange in some spots. And I think the reason it looks a little strange is because it's slightly overdone. There's a little bit more than I think there needs to be. And also the fact that they're not really painted any different. If there was a black wash here so that it kind of filled in all of those etchings with a black to make it have more of that comic book line drawn look, it might look a little bit better. But since it's all the same color as the plastic that the figure's molded in, basically, it kind of looks like he's just scratched up and scarred, especially on their noses. Like, they got those kind of cross hashes going across the noses. It looks like they just got big scratches and scars on them. So I understand what they were going for with these, and it's not too bad, but it's a little overdone. So let's go ahead and talk about the articulation on these guys. Since all four figures share the same body, the articulation is the same. The heads are on a nice ball joint, so they can look left and right and look up and down. You got nice ball joints at the shoulders there, so the arms can go outwards, move forwards and backwards. You've got swivels at the elbow as well as an elbow bend. However, nothing in the wrists, which is a bit of a problem that I'll talk about more in just a bit. You got the nice hinge joints at the thighs, so the legs can go all the way outwards, move forwards and backwards. You got the same swivels at the knees, as well as a knee bend that's behind the knee pad, which is really nice, and no other articulation below that. So these guys are pretty standard with what we're seeing on a lot of the Nick Turtles figures recently, and they're very similar to what we've seen with a lot of the actual Turtles themselves. However, the lack of the wrist swivel really hurts these guys because it makes it a little bit hard to pose them with their included weapons. So let's go ahead and talk about those weapons now. I mentioned before that all four Turtles kind of look a lot the same, so we include those weapons there, now we can really tell them apart. Each of them come with their signature weapons. Raphael and Leonardo's weapons are both done in just a solid silver plastic, so there's no extra paint detail, but they are a different sculpt from what we've seen with the Nick Turtles there, so that way they sort of match more up with the comic books. And then Mikey and Don have solid brown color plastic weapons for the bow staff and the nunchuck. Now, Mikey's nunchuck are molded with the plastic chains between them there, and they're very stiff and rigid. So bending them around is not something that you're really going to want to do because you're going to get stress marks and could possibly even break them. Donnie's bow staff is a bit short, and Leonardo's swords are a little loose in his hands, unfortunately. And of course, since Raphael's size are so big, you can't really pose them with his fingers going between the blades the way I like to do, but you can still get some really cool poses with them upside down or right side up. Now, the weapons do look pretty nice in their hands, and you can get some good poses with them. However, I really wish we had the wrist swivels there, so that way we can get some better poses. It gets a little bit awkward sometimes trying to get these guys in really cool stances. As an added little bonus, each of these figures comes with their very own trading card, featuring some of that classic comic book artwork. This is pretty neat. None of the Nick Turtles figures have come with trading cards before, so it's just a fun little extra that's been thrown in with these guys. Alright guys, it's comparison time. This is a big one. NECA Toys released the comic book Turtles way back in the early 2000s, and these are some of my all-time favorite Ninja Turtles action figures. So let's stand them side by side with these new Playmates Toys versions to see the difference between them. The NECA Toys ones are certainly a little more comic book accurate. They're very nicely done, but they were also very expensive and really hard to find now. So this gives you an idea of the difference between the different figures here. And let's go ahead and put these guys up alongside the Nick Turtles, just so you can see the difference between the styles, but also see that the scales are very similar. And here's Raphael standing alongside that San Diego Comic-Con exclusive black and white comic turtle that was released. You might remember this guy from back in July. It's the exact same figure that we're getting now in full color, but I thought you might want to see these two standing side by side. So there you go, my friends. There's a look at the original comic book Ninja Turtles to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the TMNT. Now, don't get me wrong. I probably sounded a little more harsh in this video than I intended to be. But I felt it very important to kind of really point out all of those different things about these turtles. You know, the cross hashes in the sculpt do look a little overdone. The lack of articulation in the wrist is a bit of a downfall. Even with that stuff, I like these guys. I do. I think these are really neat looking action figures. And while the NECA Turtles still remain my absolute favorite Ninja Turtles in action figure form, the fact that these are really cool kind of basic turtles at that $8.99 price point that are meant to more to be played with or put with the rest of your Playmates Turtles, I still think these are really nice action figures. They're very neat looking. I think it's really great that Playmates Toys got a chance to do their versions of the comic book Turtles to kind of add on the shelves with all those other versions of the Turtles we've received over the years. And it's a fun little nod to kind of celebrate that big 30th anniversary that Turtles is currently celebrating. So these comic book Turtles are starting to hit store shelves right now. So happy hunting, my friends, and until next time.
Playmates.